Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 299 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by the former heavyweight world title challenger, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how we doing, my man?
Good. Going. Everything's going really well now.
Good to hear, man. Good to
How about
hear.
you?
I'm okay, my friend. Always good when speaking with you. Moving on to the review part of the show. We're going to start here with a card that took place on Friday of last week, July 2nd, at the Restaurant Nigeretu. Probably saying that really wrong, but it was in France. Friend of the show, former world champion Hassan Ndam, now 38-5. A points win for him over 8 against journeyman Gabor Gorbix, now 26-20 with a draw. Only two other cards to mention for the reviewing because, again, there wasn't too much on last week. At the Sheffield Arena car park in Sheffield, United Kingdom, Yorkshire over there, Jack Massey with a good win. Like I say, one of our best cruiserweight fighters. He's now 18-1, a KO for him in round 4 against Engin Karakaplan, who is now 14-8 with 3 draws. That one was for the vacant IBF European Cruiserweight title. On the undercard, Hannah Bagley, friend of the show, panel member, even though she's only been on just one time. We will strive to get her back on. She was on the undercard. There was about 2 or 3 opponent changes, and then her fight was off, and then it was back on. She ended up having an exhibition fight against former world title challenger Hannah Rankin of Scotland, who's been in there with Clarissa Shields. A lot bigger Hannah Rankin than Hannah Bagley, but the two Hannahs got it on, for an exhibition, because a lot of people bought tickets to that event just to see Hannah Bagley make her debut. So that was quite cool of Hannah Rankin there. So yeah, an exhibition fight. She will still be making her pro debut in the coming weeks. There's another show I believe that's on. I think it's been announced. Can't remember the date off the top of my head, but all the best to her. Moving out now stateside to the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. This one was on Showtime. Over here on the undercard, a really good fight between Michel Rivera, who's now 21-0, against John Fernandez of Spain, who's now 21-2. Fernandez was knocked out in round 8, but Rivera was down himself in round 6. Unbelievable fight. Really good fight. Michel Rivera as well. He's given himself the Muhammad Ali kind of high top haircut. He had the classic black and white Muhammad Ali shorts. They said Ali on the front, so he's trying to steal the look there from the greatest. But yeah, the main event, like I say, Chris Colbert, now 16-0. He was able to beat over 12 rounds unanimously Tugstop Niambiar, who's now 12-2. I think he performed better than I expected, Colbert. I expected Niambiar to really give him a hard fight. I don't think it was like that. I think Niambiar was tremendous against Gary Russell Jr. despite losing that fight, and he lost here against Colbert. And like I say, I thought that there's a chance he could even upset Colbert. He is that good. I think Niambiar's a really good fighter. He's been thrown in early on in his pro career, of course, but Chris Colbert ticks another box there, and to me looks like he will be a really dominant fighter coming in the next few years. I think he's got a really bright future. Did you see any of that one, Eddie, or not?
Yeah, I watched the fight with Colbert, and the fight was good early on. I saw some things that Chris Colbert was doing. There was a little bit of an error in judgment, in my opinion. He was throwing shots, even though his jab was great. He was throwing his jab and pulling out with his head up. And I think at different points, Niambiar was able to exploit that. Like caught him with a couple good counter right hands, but not to try to shine on what Chris Colbert did. He fought a great fight. It looked early on if he was going to have a little more trouble than he actually did, but he pretty much shut him down. And I think the kid really only got about maybe 1 or 2, maybe if you want to be really, really critical, give him 3 rounds. Because Colbert, his jab was awesome. His speed was crazy. Like you look at his speed and you look at Gary Russell and guys like that, their speed is just incredible. But and even the punching power he showed at times was pretty good. But and then I seen that Chris Colbert was saying at the end of the fight, man, I didn't expect this guy to be able to punch as hard as he did. He said he actually hit harder than anybody ever been in the ring with up to that point as a pro. So, that was, kind of like there was a silver lining in it for Nayan Bayor. It was to show that he actually has the pop to compete at that bigger weight class. But I guess it's not the skill to compete with Chris Colbert. But at the end of the day, good fight. I'm happy to see Chris Colbert go, move on, and looking forward to seeing what the future holds for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings the review part to a close. The final thing for me to do is to welcome our first guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the number 1 ranked super middleweight in the world with the WBO. It is, of course, the undefeated Mr. Zach Parker. Zach, welcome back on the show, my man.
How are you, mate? You good?
Always good when speaking with you, Zach. It's a pleasure to have you back on. We last spoke in April 2020, just a few weeks after that Murdoch fight, right in the thick of the pandemic, of course. It's been it had been a slow year for us all in 2020, but 2021, pretty much back to how you left off. Another knockout win for you to kick the year off back in March. It's been 4 months. It's been a while. Tell us about that win briefly. You become the first man to stop Vaughn Alexander, a guy that has been in there with some really good fighters, Zach.
Yeah, it was a good fight. Especially like it was a good outcome, especially being like with a new promoter, new TV network, and just a week before the fight, I got made like top of the bill, and then I thought, all the pressure's on me now. I've got to make sure I perform. But yeah, I think I did it with flying colours and got a good stoppage in the second round.
Yeah, you absolutely did. It was really impressive. You mentioned there you're now signed to Frank Warren. You headlined straight away. I'm guessing you're pleased about that, Zach, because before this signing, you were kind of fighting here, there, and everywhere. Sauerland shows, Matchroom shows, but nothing too permanent kind of thing. You happy to be, with a long-term kind of promoter now?
Yeah, definitely. I was saying just the other day how welcome I've been made by Frank and obviously all the team, like with BT and stuff like that. I'm over the moon with it. Obviously getting out regular now. Second fight of him coming up just this week. So yeah, it's good. It's good to keep active. After this last 2 or 3 years, I've only had one or two fights in 2 or 3 years. So yeah, it's good to be with a British promoter and get me out there on the big shows.
Yeah, and that's what you deserve. You are one of the best fighters we've got in the UK. Let's talk about the main reason you're on the show. This Saturday, you're back out, Royal Albert Hall, brilliant venue. Yeah. You're boxing the 2-time Olympian, Sherzod Khusanov. Uzbekistan fighter. Do you know much about this guy, Zach?
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I'm glad you do. But it's a tough opponent. 122. I think he's only lost to obviously you just said former Olympian. I think he got a silver medal in the World Championships as amateur as well. So he ain't no mug. He's from good pedigree, but I should have enough for him. He's getting on a bit now, but yeah, with my ability and how I've been performing in the gym, it should be a good night.
Yeah, and he does have that pedigree. You're right. He picked up a silver in the worlds as an amateur. He's beaten quite a few prospects as a pro as well. I believe he's taken away 5 fighters. 5 fighters in the past. Never been stopped in his 2 losses. Do you expect to become the first man to stop him? Is that a goal secretly?
Yeah, obviously, you go out there just to win. If it's going to be the points decision or knockout, if it comes, it comes. obviously all the fans love knockouts, so I'm trying to provide that for him. And if the knockout comes out, I'll take it with both hands. But we're ready for a whole hard fight, and we're capable of doing all 10 rounds.
And you, like the rest of us, wanted to see Billy Joe Saunders beat Canelo. He was unable to. Were you able to take anything away from that fight at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think he did a lot better than what people thought he was going to do. Obviously, you've seen that he had the right style for Canelo. Movement, southpaw, awkward. But I just don't think he was big enough for the weight. Like, you see, like, the likes of me and, like, you see Conor Smith and that, we're massive for the weight. You just need the same style as Billy Joe, which I think I've got, like, very awkward, switch hitter, come at different angles. And, I take a lot out of every fight.
And Zach, you've been at number one for what seems like quite a while now. Have you got any idea? I know it's Canelo we're talking about, this kind of special circumstances, but have you got any idea when a mandatory is going to be called? Are you ready for that big of a step up, soon? Yeah.
Obviously, Canelo does what Canelo wants at the minute because he's like the cash cow, like Floyd Mayweather used to be. But if he's looking to what he wants, Celeb Plant fight in later this year. If that is, I'm just going to keep busy. There's no every fight I'm getting better, and every fight they're getting older. So it's all working into my hands. In boxing, you just got to be patient and wait for your time. And we're just going to keep busy. If the mandatory don't get pulled up on him, we'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, everyone wants that Canelo fight. We had David Benavidez on last week, another fight that, of course, he wants as well. But now there's so many guys that, I'm sure myself and many others would love to see you in with. Guys that, I think against your style would be a brilliant fight. But where you're in that number one spot, if it was me, I'd want to take the easiest ones to keep that spot. You're right up there. But now there's so many good fights, like yourself with like a John Ryder, a David Lemieux, a Gabe Rosado, Isaac Chilemba. These are all names I like. This interview is going to go out on Thursday, Zach. So the Denmark match would have already happened. But my last real question for you, Zach, is it coming home?
Yes, it is. I hope it is. I'll be in London anyway. The day if they're in the final, I'll be going down to watch in a pub somewhere in London. So I'm hoping it's coming home. Watch every match, and they've done well to have England now. Then just so that last push now.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. So hopefully we win Wednesday. Hopefully you win Saturday, and then on Sunday you'll be in London to see the final. But listen, just before we wrap it up, Zach, if you've got any closing words, I always like to throw it over to you just to give you an opportunity to thank anyone, to shout anyone out. If you want to say anything to the listeners before we wrap it up, the floor is yours, my man.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for everyone supporting me, and make sure you tune in on BT Sport this Saturday, July 10th. So, yeah, I'm hoping for another big knockout, and just have to keep watching me.
Absolutely, you'd be crazy to not be. But no, I'm happy that you're in this position, Zach. It's a long time coming. It's fantastic that you've got a promoter behind you on a kind of long-term basis. You're on TV, again, which you should be on that level. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, mate. Best of luck for Saturday, and we'll catch up sometime after.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. To be honest, nothing to mention as of yet. If anything develops from now to the end of the show, I will talk about it on the outro. But as of yet, no news. So moving straight on to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here with a card that takes place at the Bank of California Stadium in LA, USA. Over here, this one's going to be on DAZN. That's good to know, actually, because I wasn't sure it was on DAZN. On the undercard, Naoko Fujioka. 18-2 with a draw. She defends her WBA female flyweight world title over 10 2-minute rounds against friend of the show. She was on a couple weeks ago, Sulem Urbina. of Mexico, who's 12-1. All the best to Salem. Fantastic lady. On the undercard as well, Hector Tanahara, the prospect, 19-0. He was on the show a few years ago. Really nice kid. He takes on William Zepeda, who's 22-0 with 20 KOs. Somebody's own must go. 41-0, the combined records there. Unbelievable. Great fight for the undercard. We've also got 10K Tsunami, who's 28-12 with a draw. Never been stopped in her 12 losses. She takes on Sinisa Estrada, who's 20-0. That one's for the WBO World Female Light Flyweight title. I keep forgetting how small Estrada is, but she can bang quite hard as well for those lower weights there. Again, really, really good fight. Tsunami, by the way, is the world champion. So Estrada is the opponent coming in, hopefully trying to cause the upset. Elsewhere on the card, friend of the show, he was on about 3 weeks ago. Joseph Jojo Diaz, 31-1 with a draw. He gets in against Javier Fortuna. Unbelievable fight. This is a great card, by the way, that Golden Boy's putting together. It's for the WBC Interim World Lightweight title. That's a brilliant fight, man. Joseph Jojo Diaz looks to be in great shape. However, his weight issues and stuff like that have been a problem before. Javier Fortuna, for me, is the kind of guy, if you're cutting corners in training, he will show, he'll make you pay for that in the ring. He is a really good fighter. That's a great fight. Remember, Joseph Jojo Diaz came in to replace Ryan Garcia. That fight was supposed to be between Garcia and Fortuna. Great fight. And the main event, Gilberto Ramirez, 41-0. He's in his first real test since moving up from 168 to 175. He gets in against friend of the show, the Cuban who fights nothing like a Cuban, Sullivan Barrera, 22-3. It's another great fight. There's a lot of 50-50 fights on this card, or close to it. I love that card there. That is a brilliant card. Moving out now, because that is, by the way, on Friday night. Moving out now to the Melbourne Pavilion in Australia. Over here, former world champion Sam Solomon, 46-15 with a draw. I think he's coming off that loss to Sakio Bika. He's in a 10-rounder against Victor Nagbe, who's undefeated, 3-0. Just throwing that one in there. Bit of Australian spice. And now finishing up at the Royal Albert Hall in Kensington, London. I wanted to be at this card, but unfortunately I couldn't find a way to get tickets for it. But anyway, on the undercard, Dennis McCann, 9-0, gets in against John Chua, who's 20-4. That's a bit of a step up there. We've got Muhammad Ali, who's 2-0 against Lee Glover, who's 11-4. We've got Sam Noakes, 5-0, a prospect to watch out for. He's in a 6-rounder against Lee Connolly, who's 7-56 with 5 draws. We've got Archie Sharp, friend of the show, 19-0, defending his WBO global, fighting for the vacant WBO global super featherweight title against Diego Andrade Chavez, who's 13-4 with 2 draws. Archie Sharp was supposed to box a few weeks back, but his opponent pulled out with coronavirus. They rescheduled it for this date here, but now that opponent has gone missing. Not sure what's going on. So in steps this guy here, who, to be honest, is a more riskier fight. The record doesn't look as good, but this guy is pretty good. He beat a guy who won a world title, something like that. So he's in decent form, this Diego Chavez. There's a couple of Diego Chavezes as well. It's not the one that I think boxed against Brandon Rios. That's certainly not the same guy. But yeah, Archie Sharp, like I say, ranked number 2 in the world with the WBO. All the best to him. The man that we spoke to in part 1, Zach Parker, 20-0, ranked number 1 with the WBO at Super-Middleweight. He gets in against Sherzod Khusanov, former 2-time Olympian. He was in the Olympics in 2000 and 2004. He's 41 years of age now, but still never been stopped. 22 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. He's upset many a undefeated prospect over the years. It's for the WBO International Super Middleweight title. And the main event, Lyndon Arthur coming off a fine win against Anthony Yard, who I thought was going to be on the card, but it looks like he's not on anymore. Yeah, that's the first I'm reading of that one. But anyway, Lyndon Arthur, 18-0. fighting here for the WBO Intercontinental Light Heavyweight title against the undefeated David Faraci, who is 15-0. Just going to really quickly analyse that record just for a second there. Haven't heard of the name until this fight got made, which is always a bit of a bad thing, I think. Italian fighter, born in Switzerland. I probably recognise one or two names on the slate. Shouldn't really be anything to trouble Lyndon Arthur if he is as good as he looked against Anthony Yarde. But then again, Anthony Yarde fought so one-dimensionally that night. We shall see. All the best to Lyndon Arthur. Few friends of the show boxing this weekend. Like I say, all the best in particular to Lyndon Arthur, Zach Parker, Archie Sharp, Sulem Urbina, Sullivan Barrera, Joseph Diaz, and Hector Tanahara. All friends of the show. Wishing them all the very best. But anyway, that is it for the preview part of the show. The final thing for me to do before we wrap up this show is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the WBO number 4 ranked welterweight in the world. It is, of course, the undefeated Mr. Michael McKinson. Mikey, welcome back on the show, my man.
Good to be back on, mate. How are you?
Always good when speaking with you, Mike. That's the truth. So we last caught up back in February. It was a few weeks before that Chris Kongo fight in Gibraltar. There's nowhere else to start but there. What a fabulous win. I always fancied you to win that fight, but not many people around me agreed with me. Tell me about that unbelievable win.
Yeah, mate. To be honest, I called for the fight originally, so I always knew I could beat Chris. There was a lot of hype behind Chris. He's a good fighter, but I proved that I'm a better fighter. You know, like I didn't really listen to all the hype. I see on beforehand on all of the polls, not really many people favoured me to win, but that didn't matter. I believed in myself. My team believed in me, and yeah, we went out there and beat him quite comfortably, I thought.
Yeah, you certainly did. I mean, you started brilliantly, you ended brilliantly. I felt you let it slip a tiny bit in the mid-rounds, but more importantly, you were able to adjust in the middle of the fight. That's what only top fighters can do, especially when they're in there with a guy, like you said before the fight, you felt he was probably one of the most dangerous welterweights in the country. Yeah,
well, to be fair, I was telling like my friends and people that was asking me what my opinion on the fight would be, and I genuinely thought I would knock Chris Kongo out, and but he boxed a different fight than I planned. He was telling people before he was going to walk through me and he was going to stop me, but after he felt my power early on, he didn't want to commit throughout the whole fight. So if he committed a bit more, I was quite confident I would stop him. I felt really confident in myself in that fight, but like you say, it got to, I think, won the first 3. The middle 4 rounds were quite close because he just ran. It wasn't like me. Like normally, I'm the type of fighter to box, and I had to create something. I had to push for the first time. It was new territory for me. So the middle rounds were quite close. I wouldn't say he won all of the middle rounds, but they were dead close. But when you're fighting the champion, you give the close rounds to the champion, you know. So my dad said, right, we need to push on, and obviously I finished the fight very strong. So there was no arguing who won the fight. I think one of the judges' scorecards was too close, in my opinion. I thought I won by a good couple of rounds, but it doesn't matter. We got the win. We proved a lot of people wrong, and now we move on.
Yeah, for sure. And my scorecard, like I say, 97-92 in the end for you. I gave Kongo just round 4, 6 and 7. And also you mentioned there your dad, he's finally getting a bit of well-deserved credit for his work with you. I've seen him grafting for years, mainly in the away corner on all kinds of shows at all kinds of levels. It's good for him to finally get that credit, Mike.
Yeah, obviously it's not just success for me. Like me and my dad, we've been grafting since very early on. You know, this is no overnight success for us. And obviously me getting this bit of success now, he's finally getting the credit that he deserves, because he's a very underrated trainer. you know. But it's just the beginning for us both. Like obviously being signed to Matchroom now, and MTK looking after me and stuff, like who knows where we can be in 12, 18 months' time.
Yeah, it's a brilliant thing. I really like what's going on. Obviously, it's a very family-orientated kind of corner. You, your dad, obviously your brother as well. It's a brilliant thing. You're not noted as a big puncher. You've only obviously knocked out 2 opponents in 20 fights, but you seem to keep dropping people every fight now. Every fight they're down more than once. What's going on?
Do you know what it is? It's not I'm not a non-puncher, but I'm dropping these guys, but I'm not staying at the same level. These guys are getting harder and tougher, you know. They're getting more durable. They're getting better fighters I'm fighting each time. Like, if you look at, I think I've dropped, I don't know the stats 100%. I think I've dropped 6 of my last 7. I think 4 of them have been more than once. And my last 3 fights, they've all been unbeaten fighters, and I've all dropped all 3 of them in the first round. So I am dropping them. The knockouts are coming, 100%. Like, that's what I'm saying. Just because I've knocked 2 people out, a lot of people saying I'm a non-puncher, when that's far from the truth. I can dig a bit. I'm not saying I'm a big one-punch knockout merchant, but I can whack a bit. And these guys, if they want to overlook my power and things like that, they'll definitely 100% come unstuck.
And your next fight's been announced. It takes place on August 14th in Eddie Hearn's back garden. You'll be boxing Poland's Przemyslaw Runowski. Runowski, a name that some British fighters, or fight fans, I should say, will probably remember from his fight against Josh Kelly. I remember Josh Kelly did 10 rounds with him just 6 weeks before he went to America and got what some people say was a gift draw against Ray Robinson. I remember warning Josh against doing that, but he never listened to me, but that's another story. Anyways, back on track. What do you know about Runowski, Mikey, aside from his fight there with Josh Kelly?
Yeah, so obviously when I went to the fight camp launch a few weeks ago, I didn't know who I was fighting on the way there. I was on the train going to the launch, and then I think my fight got made that morning. I didn't have a clue I was going to be fighting. I got the phone call off my manager Lee and saying it's Runowski, and I'd only ever heard of him from losing on points to Josh Kelly. But I said yes, no matter what. The answer's always yes for me. And then had a look at his record afterwards, and obviously how he's bounced back from that and points lost to Kelly has been good. He's coming off a couple of real good knockout wins. So he's definitely going to be game. He's going to be confident. But you know what? They all are. Like the 20 before him were all confident. They was all going to try and knock me out, and none of them have been successful, you know. I'm getting better. I'm learning more each fight I'm having. So I'm more than confident I can beat Runowski. But my job is to beat him in style, make a statement. This is my first fight under the Matchroom banner, you know. I want to make a serious statement and put in a very good performance.
Yeah, and you're right. Since his loss to Josh Kelly, he's probably in the form of his life. He's got those two knockout wins. One was against an undefeated prospect. He stopped him in a round. And then he knocked out a bit of a Polish kind of veteran, Michael Sirawotka. He knocked him out in 4. I remember Sirawotka knocked out Robbie Davies Jr. in 12. Then they had a rematch. Robbie Davies knocked him out in 12. But to get him out there in 4 is quite impressive. Without looking too far ahead, you know, you're climbing these rankings constantly. Is there anyone on your radar, Mikey, for any future fights, perhaps after this one?
No, I don't really look past each opponent. I know that, obviously, I've got a real good ranking with the WBO. So I've got full faith in MTK and guiding my career. Obviously, I want a big name. I want, after Runowski, I'll get a good job in with Runowski, and I want a big name, like a world name. You know, I've got a job to do first. If I don't look good beating Runowski, like, I don't deserve a big name, you know. So I've got to do my job, and then I'm sure my management team will do a great job like they have done with me up to this date.
and I want to get your prediction on the fight that takes place a week after yours. Spence Pacquiao. It's been made since we last spoke. What's your thoughts on that one, my man?
I'm going to back Spence. I will back Spence, but there's a lot of people saying, like, Pacquiao ain't got a chance. People were saying that when he fought Furman, and look what happened there. But if I was to bet my money, I would go Spence on points.
Yeah. The size, I think, is such a big thing, you know. It's the size is crazy between the pair, you know.
Yeah, but you say that you've seen Pacquiao fight bigger guys than Spence, and beat them. Okay, a long time ago, but I don't think the size will be the biggest factor. I think it's just the youth and everything else. Like he's a superior fighter, Spence, and I'll just favour him to beat Pacquiao on points. And to be fair, I reckon it'll be Pacquiao's last fight.
Yeah, could be the end of an era. I just hope it's not like Spence and Mikey Garcia where, you know, the smaller man just couldn't get there. I think that Spence has got that athleticism. He can keep throwing punches constantly for 12. My final question for you, Mikey. This interview won't go out till Thursday, so we would have already played Denmark on Wednesday, but is it coming home?
I'll tell you what, I really do believe we've got a great team at the moment, and we're getting better and better as this tournament's going on, you know. I think Denmark's our hardest game. They're a very, very strong team, but I think we beat Denmark, and it's definitely coming home.
There we go. You've heard it from the champ. Just before we wrap it up, Mikey, if you've got any closing words to the listeners, I'm sure we all agree. We all hope it does come home. But back to the boxing, if you've got any final words just to wrap it up, the floor is yours, my man.
Yeah, I'm just really to my city for the love and support I've been getting this year. I'm quite proud to be flying the flag for Portsmouth and putting Portsmouth on the map, you know. I know I'm not really going to have a lot of Portsmouth people at this fight, but I'll get Runowski out of the way, and then Portsmouth can take over.
Yeah, like I say, I remember you saying you saw a few Pompey shirts in Gibraltar. You know, they find their way around. It's a great thing. Listen, Mikey, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, mate. It really is. Thanks for your time. Best of luck August 14th, and we'll catch up sometime after.
Nice one, buddy. See you later.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 299 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's podcast, the undefeated WBO #1 ranked super-middleweight in the world, Mr. Zach Parker, and of course the WBO #4 ranked welterweight in the world, Mr. Michael McKinson. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners, but that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe. Watch it come home on Sunday, hopefully, and we shall see you all again next week.